Hello. How are you? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well today. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. So, as you know, we've talked about this being our final session together. Just basically what this session's going to be is a review and see how you feel you have come, and I'll give you how I feel that you have um done in along the way, and see if you know our feelings match, and we're going to go over what your goals were. We're going to go over how you think you've met your goals, and different things like that. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay. So my um the the grounding technique for when you start to feel anxious, especially at work. How do you feel like that's been going?
Yeah, I think it's actually been quite helpful, um, especially when I am at work and let's say I'm getting stressed by certain deadlines or certain tasks that are needed from me, um, and I start to feel anxious or worrying about how other people are perceiving me. um, I'm more likely to either to myself or excuse myself to do it, of just giving myself the space to take in my surroundings and use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, to kind of help me come out of that anxious headspace and back into the present. I think has been super helpful.
Okay. Well, I have noticed that since I had you start to do that technique, that I have noticed a change in things that we've talked about, where you're not shutting down in those moments, which is where I was hoping that would help, where you wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your goal, one of your main goals was to decrease your anxiety in stressful situations. Another one is working on your depression. But I think a lot of your depression was rooted in your anxiety because of the fact that you were getting so anxious during stressful situations when somebody was, just telling you that you needed to change something in a note. You were taking it as criticism and not just something just needed to be tweaked a little. It wasn't that you were doing anything wrong. It's just, you know, for certain circumstances, especially when you're doing something for like insurance, things need to be worded a certain way. And because you were taking that as criticism, I think that's where your depression kicked in. So now that you are decreasing your anxiety, have you noticed that your depression has decreased also?
I'd say so. Because I think the depression can definitely be rooted in past experiences and um, kind of how I viewed my own self worth and whatnot from the past for sure. Um, so, like you mentioned, the being able to work through the anxieties now, I feel like I'm able to kind of um, fight off those beliefs or that negative perception of myself, which overall just increases the anxiety for sure, but the depression is as well, and I feel like I am in more of a balanced or um, kind of positive, at least more positive state of mind moving forward for sure.
I mean, you come from this background, so you know how one thing can affect another. So in our first session, you talked a lot more about your anxiety than you did your depression. And a lot of times when you talked about the anxiety, you talked about how the depression followed. So that really made me think that if we decreased the anxiety, we'd also decrease the depression because they are so much linked to each other. Because like I said, you were taking things as criticism and that you were doing things wrong, which made you feel bad about yourself. When in turn, you got to look at things in a different light and be like, all right, they just asked me to change this one thing. Doesn't mean I did the whole note wrong. I just got to change this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You looking at things in a different way is always going to also decrease those anxieties and those depression feelings. If you could look back at all of our sessions, what would be one thing that is your major takeaway?
Um, I would probably say um, the space that was taught but also practiced um, for when I am feeling overwhelmed. Because those feelings of being overwhelmed or anxious for sure kind of creates a spiral. So giving myself that space to try to like re-regulate myself and bring myself back down and be in the moment has been super helpful on both a physical and an emotional level. Um, and I think that's kind of my major takeaway moving forward is allowing myself to take that space and that time to tend to how I am feeling to prevent further spiraling or escalation and whatnot.
You also come from a unique spot because you are in this profession is what you learn from me and in these sessions, you can go ahead and take and teach to somebody else that's going through the same situation because you know personally that these techniques and these assessments and these things and these interventions, they work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're just throwing something at you. You personally know they work
Mm-hmm.
and that they helped you. So like I said, you're in a very unique situation with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that should also in turn make you feel good because you know that you can use something that helped you help somebody else.
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
do think I feel a little bit more empowered, not only for myself, but to take that into my line of work as well. So I think that's a huge takeaway and definitely something I'll be continuing with with me or practicing apart from my sessions.
So I do know that this is our final session, but I also want you to know that if you ever get to a point where you feel like you just need to talk things out and you need a little help, don't ever hesitate to schedule an appointment with me. I'm not just going to be the type to, you know, say, okay, we're done, and that's it. I'm not that type. I'm going to be here if you need me, no matter what. All right. So I think we've talked about everything. We talked about your goals and how you've met your goals and talked about how you plan on continuing using what we've taught to go forward. I think we can end the session now and I want to say I'm happy that I was able to help you, and it was a very fulfilling working with you.
So much. I appreciate you and your time as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Bye.